Hello everyone, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about 9.2 Survival Hunter and what we can expect when it comes to things like Covenants and Legendaries, depending on the type of content that we're going to be playing in. This is a massive question that a lot of you have been asking me, and what Covenant's going to be good. And honestly, at this point, there are quite a few options that you can play around with. So I thought we'd kind of jump into this now, and I'll show a little bit of gameplay of what Survival's doing in 9.2 as well. I'll try not to get us nerfed, but we'll see. No promises. I might hold you all ransom. So, Survival Hunter right now has a couple of good options, but things are going to change radically depending on what stage you are in 9.2. Right? Obviously, with the introduction of 9.2, we're going to get tier set bonuses or tier set pieces, and we're also going to get access to a second legendary. Of course, one of them needs to be a Covenant legendary, one of them needs to be a regular legendary. So, things are going to change as you gain more of that power. So starting things out, right now in 9.1.5, Venthia is very strong in raid, and also Kyrian does make an appearance for anything that isn't, I guess, just pure single target. So those are your current kind of options, and then in Mythic Plus you play Kyrian. But in 9.2, the way it's going to work with the raid so far is you're actually going to be playing Venthia as normal until you get, and probably some Kyrian, probably a very similar setup, right? Where Venthia on pure single target, Kyrian on anything else, when you go into the raid, when you don't have any tier set, and of course when you don't have double legendary. It's expected based on the pacing of the game that you'll probably have at least your 2 set before you get your second legendary. So assuming that you get your second, or you get your 2 set and potentially 4 set before your second legendary, right? Assuming these things, then how will it play out? So in raid, you'll begin playing Night Fae instead of Venthia, and you would play with the Night Fae Covenant ability, or a legendary, sorry. And in Mythic Plus, the expectation is to continue to play Kyrian, and you would of course play with the Kyrian legendary. And there might even be some scope to play some Night Fae as well, depending on the key that you're going to be in. Say it's something like a Mists or a Theatre of Pain, where you're not really getting above, 4 or 5 targets at a time, then Night Fae might be a solid option there as well. But there are a couple things that are weird with Night Fae that I'll probably discuss in a moment. So yeah, in raid, you're going to be playing Night Fae. You'll probably shift away from the Venthia, though there might be some bosses where ultimately you do play Venthia, though I think Night Fae will probably just be the outright play. And then for Mythic Plus, when you're going, so a lot of people have been asking about Necrolord. I don't think Necrolord is going to be the play, generally speaking. You see the pulls that we're doing in this dungeon, for example. Necrolord here wouldn't really be too advantageous. We're only pulling, 4 or 5 mobs at a time. We're not really going too massive. And generally speaking, in dungeons, you're never really hitting that uncapped potential. Whereas if you're in, say, an MDI setting, then I could see that Necrolord could be a really good option. Because if you're consistently every 40 seconds or 45 seconds pulling massive uncapped pulls the way that you do in MDI, then getting these explosive shots that are uncapped from the Necrolord ability could probably be pretty good. Could probably end up being pretty good. But even then, I don't know if that would even ultimately be the play. Kyrian might outright just be better in that scenario anyway. So yeah, that kind of is the breakdown there. Another thing to say on Night Fae is Night Fae, the problem for me with Night Fae is the Soulbind options. They're a bit clunky, right? Because you either have Nia, which gives you a bunch of mastery, which is not really needed for survival. It's our worst stat. So getting that from Nia isn't great. Then you have the option of Karain, which is really good to get some crit strike and everything, and that increased damage during the initial bit of combat. Problem is that after that initial couple seconds, it just dramatically falls off because you lose the crit and you lose the damage done to mobs. So Karain isn't really going to be amazing, especially say you're in Mythic Plus and you've got some single target fights, like you're on a boss. Karain's going to fall off pretty hard. Also in raid, you wouldn't play Karain, you wouldn't play Nia. It's like, okay, so what's your other option? Well, your other option is Dream Weaver, I believe it is, which is a good option because you get a bunch of haste from one of the soulbinds, or one of the soulbind tree traits. The issue is that you have to stand in a small circle for 24 seconds to, that's how long that lasts for you to get that haste, which is a really long time and really good if you can stay within it for 24 seconds. But if you can't, then you're probably going to lose value. However, I would assume that it's still going to outright be the best option, and even if you only stand in it for, let's say, like 8 seconds, it might still end up being the best option, especially say you're in your Night Phase spell, which doesn't last 24 seconds, right? So, your Wild Spirits, that is. So, I think that'll end up being fine. But yeah, just to kind of give you guys a little look then at, what... So, these were the predictions that I made. And was kind of talking about on stream, and then I've gone and looked at the, we were checking it out on stream yesterday. It was quite funny, but we looked at like the breakdown of what it's, what the guide writer, who I don't even know who the guide writer was for this, but whoever it was, these are their predictions. So it's kind of cool that, to kind of keep in line with that. But a quick note as well to mention is you're probably going to go haste verse as your new best stats rather than haste crit. Which is cool, and you'll get a lot of crit when you play Kyrian anyway, so actually you'll just be real stacked with haste verse and crit. Verse will also really help with the survivability at a later stage, right? When you're doing high level keys or you're in mythic bosses and things start to hit a bit harder, that extra versatility, it goes a long way, right? When you're stacking a bunch of verse, it does go a long way. But yeah, best raid covenants for Survival Hunter, so it's saying Venthyr initially. So yeah, before Mad Bombardier, it's Venthyr. With Mad Bombardier, it's going to be Night Fae for single target, Kyrian for AoE. So this is something to note, whereas in Raid, like this is where I'm saying you're going to want all of the covenants leveled up basically with Survival, where you're going to fluidly move between Venthyr initially into Night Fae. Oh, it's AoE. Okay, we go Kyrian for this one. There's going to be a lot of movement. A lot of people are asking me, which one covenant am I going to play? Which one legendary am I going to play? And it just isn't going to work like that anymore in the game. With the way that covenants are unlocked, with the access to double legendaries, with the different fight styles, it's just not going to work that way. So get used to kind of probably running a few different covenants. I would say if you are somebody who only wants to play one covenant and one covenant only, you cannot be bothered to level anything else, I would most likely just say go Kyrian. I think outright that's the most versatile and will probably, like, it's probably the second best option in every scenario. I would assume, where it might be like, it'll be like the second best single target option that, well, I mean, Venthyr would probably still be the second best target, but like it'll be real good in single target, it'll be really good in AoE, it'll be good in Mythic Plus, it'll be good in raids, it'll be good in whatever you're doing. So I think Kyrian's probably a good second option. But yeah, best covenant for Mythic Plus is outright just saying Kyrian there as well. Hammer of Genesis with Mechanicos is just like, it's just so much better than going Night Fae and having to stand in this dome for 24 seconds. Just not gonna happen, right? But that's it. Comment on some of the legendaries as well. So your raid legendary before you get the set bonus is going to be Venthyr with the pouch, which makes sense. Mythic Plus, obviously Wildfire Cluster. Then once you get your set bonus, then it's just Wildfire Cluster and whatever your covenant is. And obviously you're going to change your covenant around. The funny thing is with this is because of the playstyle of the 4-set, you're just not even bothered about playing Nesting Warrior anymore because the focus generation just isn't an issue because of the way that the rotation changes, where you're in this red bomb and you're in your pheromone bomb and you're just fishing for procs on bombs, and it gets pretty wild and crazy. But yeah, hopefully this was very helpful. And kind of just an outline of what we're gonna, what to expect. Oh, perfect, to me dying there. Yeah, just an outline of what to expect going into 9.2. Of course, things are subject to change, but I don't really expect them to change too much for Survival Hunter. And yeah, just get ready to potentially be a nice, solid meta spec. I think will perform very well in Mythic Plus, and I think that will perform pretty damn well in Raid as well. Of course, we don't bring a Raid buff. That's always going to be an issue. We are a bit squishy, which is where, again, I could probably see Necrolord coming into play, maybe at very, very high-level keys where you just care about living more than anything, and you get your Fleshcraft. But yeah, I think we're going to be looking good. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks very much. I'll see you in the next one.